Vince Goes Fishing here, and today I'm going to be sharing with you a recipe that my dad taught me when I was just about 16 years old. It is a homemade white sauce on a seafood pasta. We're going to be working with what we got today. As you can see, we've got some olive oil, butter, flour, angel hair pasta, clam juice, and a can of chopped clams. I like to use whole clams, but the market didn't have clams right now, so we're going to go with the canned clams. We've also got a variety of seasonings, salt, and the best part is this. Now, a good friend of mine, Edward Tomoloso, from the YouTube channel known as Hook to Cook, he had an absolute slay sesh just a week ago. They were doing shallow water fishing with a double hookup rig, and he got tons of lingcod and rockfish and halibut, and he actually gave me 3 fillets of halibut and 3 fillets of lingcod. So tonight we're gonna put this halibut into this recipe. Guys, I hope this dish becomes a tradition in your kitchen. Let me know how you love it. Let's get started.
This recipe all begins with the onion. We're gonna get that sliced up nice and thin and start sauteing that in some olive oil and butter. I think I'll use about half of this onion tonight. Alright, good enough. The next thing we're gonna do is add the olive oil and butter. This is not margarine, this is real butter. Not exactly low cholesterol. Sorry about that, doctor. Alright, let's go ahead and get that flame on sort of a medium-low flame there. It is never too soon to start working on your garlic because this is probably the most tedious part of the whole recipe. Okay, our oil and butter is just about ready for the onions. Let's go ahead and drop them in. I like to add the garlic on the late side to keep it a little more on the raw side. I like to taste the garlic. Or I use my palm of my hand and just crunch them down like that. Just a little thing, just a little pop, and the shell comes right off. Nothing to it. Let's go ahead and mince these down pretty small. Alright, now I'm going to rinse my mushrooms, which is absolutely necessary, guys. You gotta rinse your mushrooms. Cook mushrooms because they absorb the water. Slice them kind of on the small side again. I'm sure the chefs at home are laughing their brains out. And at this point, I'm gonna go ahead and add some salt and seasonings to our butter and onions here, so that way it gets a chance to dissolve. I'm making a pretty big recipe, so I'm not gonna be too shy with anything here. We got some paprika, some garlic and pepper seasoning. I figure, you know what, let's go ahead and add some of these crushed red peppers just to give it some spice. Alright, so now that that is all pretty much sauteed and ready to go, here comes the magic. Magic, guys. We're gonna turn the heat down to low. Now, we will just pinch in a small amount of this flour and then stir that in. And then again, continue to add and stir the tiniest amount of flour. And you just really want to be patient at this stage of the game. Alright, it's definitely thickening up. I think just a little more flour. And my dad was really specific to tell me that you just add a little bit and then stir it in. Now that's looking like a nice thick slurry of oil and butter and onions. I'm going to do something really cool. We're going to let this down with a jar of clam juice. Alright, we've got our clam juice here, and it is time to go ahead and let this down. So that's going to thin it right back out again into a beautiful white seafood sauce. Alright, lovely. I'm going to go ahead and add our chopped clams now. Dump the whole thing in there. Figure a little extra clam juice isn't going to hurt anything. Oh man, that looks fantastic. Now it's time to get that pasta boiling, and then we're going to sear the halibut. But first, I want to go ahead and add the mushrooms and the garlic. And this is a tall order of mushrooms, but quite frankly, I can never get enough of those things. That's gonna be really good. Oh baby. Yeah guys, that is gonna be good. So to sear this halibut, we'll be using a little olive oil and a little butter again. And I'm gonna go ahead and just sprinkle a little bit of salt on each side of the halibut. Don't need to overdo it because we did put quite a bit of salt in the sauce. Key to searing fish is to use very high heat. So make sure your pan is hot as hell before you drop that fish in, so that way it sears the outside of the fish and essentially keeps the inside practically raw. I could have got it hotter than that even, and I'm not going to put the lid on it. Go ahead and let some moisture out. Halibut is easy to overcook. You do not need to cook this stuff too much. So we're going to let that cook on one side for a little while. I'm going to turn the flame even more. We'll flip it, sear the other side, nice and hot, and it'll be ready. That's looking pretty beautiful right there. It's still super raw on the inside. To make sure that it cooks through is just go ahead and put a lid on that pan so it steams through the entire thing in it. Just make sure that it's cooked. That ought to be done. I'm gonna try something that I've never done before. I've got this parsley that I was gonna use mostly as a garnish, but I'm gonna go ahead and mince some of this up and throw it in the pan around the fish while it still has some sizzle going, and just kind of sizzle down this parsley so it ends up in the mix. I don't want to use too much. I'm just gonna, you know, like this much or something like this. I'm gonna put that around the outsides of the fish and let that parsley kind of cook down in the oil there. I think it will be a nice touch. Our water is boiling. It's time for the pasta. This is how I do it. I'll just turn the box upside down, grab it all in one bunch, and then I head over to the pot, break it in half, drop it in, and start stirring. Have you guys noticed that pasta does not stick to itself as much as it used to when we were kids? It's like they changed the recipe or something for making pasta. It just doesn't stick to itself as much as it used to. When we were kids, we had to keep stirring and stirring and stirring the whole time it was cooking. I've noticed these days you can just stir it a little here and there and it doesn't stick. What are they doing different when they're making this stuff? I really think that my friend David Siordia will get an absolute kick out of watching this video and seeing what I can do in the kitchen, because when I rented a room in his apartment in Santa Barbara for 9 months, he saw me do the weirdest things in the kitchen. At one time, I tried to make mashed potatoes and I didn't have any cream or milk, so I tried using blueberry yogurt to make my mashed potatoes, and it came out terrible. Do not use blueberry yogurt when you're making mashed potatoes. A little tip from La Cocina de Vincent. I don't know how to speak Italian, actually. I think that was Spanish. But I actually can cook some stuff up when I want to. Okay, it is time to pour that pasta off. Go ahead and get some cold water on there to stop it from cooking. That'll do. At this point, I like to coat the noodles with a little oil, like a little butter and olive oil. And a sprinkle of salt doesn't hurt either. So just a little drizzle of olive oil and a little pinch of salt, and then we'll stir that up. And that's just to make sure the noodles taste really delicious. We're gonna dump a good portion of noodles down here, and I really only need about half of this fish. So let's go ahead and actually, let's get our sauce down first. Awesome white sauce that we made. I'll go ahead and dump some of that on there. Looking good. Oh my gosh, that smells so good. Alright, let's get a nice fillet of halibut on top. A little bit of that sauteed parsley on top there. Try not to scrape your nonstick pan with a fork. Should really use rubber when doing this. Let's go ahead and add a little more of that sauce on top just to keep it extra saucy. Okay, I think we've got it, guys. All right, ladies and gentlemen, there it is. This was a recipe that my dad taught me. Now I'm teaching it to you. I hope you guys go home and make this in your kitchens. Enjoy it, get addicted to it, and make it a whole bunch of times, and let me know. Let me know when you're cooking this up and eating it, and then that will inspire me to make it again. And around we go.